Now, I really want to get into creating this navigation because all we really have right now, if you'll take a look, is right in here, we just have a bunch of hrefs. Okay, so we can kind of see that content, and I can just hit return to start to get this like sort of laid out a little easier, so it's kind of easier to read. And really, a lot of navigation is actually not built this way where everything's just laid out. What I want to do is I want to create an unordered list and then have each one of these elements as a list item, okay? And that's exactly what I can do is I can select all this content with it selected right over here under HTML. I want to make this an unordered list. Selecting that, it does it. You can see because it adds that UL. Okay, so that means unordered list. So I'll just go in there and hit return, just kind of see that these are my items that are part of this unordered list. So for right here, what I want to do is I can even select line 13 and I can make this a list item. So unordered list and then list item like that. Okay, even right here for this next one, list item, you get the idea. On down the line, you can see it getting stacked. You notice right up here. And still, there's a lot more work we need to do. But in general, this is how most content is made. And what you can also do is, since this formatting gets a little funky and just not that easy to read, what you can always do is right over here, off to the side, you can format the source code. So clicking on that, I want to apply source formatting, and I can apply source formatting. It'll do it for everything, and it gets rid of all those spaces and makes it a little bit more compact, but you can see it right here, okay? But in general, I might add a couple more spaces and start to dive into changing this, because what I need to do is I actually need to get this all lined up across the top, okay? So for nav, basically put this on white is what I want to do. So for nav, I'm going to create a new style CSS, a new selector, hitting that plus button. For the nav, we're going to give it a white background, so hitting enter. For properties, jumping down to the background color, you guessed it. You can go ahead and select just like a super light gray, something like that. So I can already see it much better. This is working out well. Now what I need to do is I need to modify this unordered list, but I actually don't want to modify the UL tag because it'll do it for everything. So in case I want to add bullet points later on, I don't want it to look like navigation. So what do I need to do? I need to make a new class. So right over here, style CSS, clicking plus, instead of what I have there, I want to say nav list. And let's not forget the period like I just did. Period, nav list, that means it's a class, and now from there I can start to add the properties that I want. And what I want to do is I want to jump down to the text, and if I take a look, probably the most important one as I scroll down, here we go, list style type. Well, this is what I want to change it to. You can see all these different types. I don't want to make a disk or circle. In fact, I want to select none. And then also scrolling to the top, I'm going to make sure the margin is set to 0. Again, I can make sure that's always locked and that there's no padding. All right, so we haven't seen anything change yet because I actually have not applied this class to it. The last thing I want to do is scrolling down to the bottom, I want to add an overflow and changing that to hidden. Right? So essentially what that means is if it goes beyond or outside of the box, it's just going to hide it. Okay, but let's go ahead and get this applied because we really haven't seen anything. It's nav list. It happens to be an unordered list. So UL class, typing in class, I can see it pop up there. I'll hit enter, and there's nav list, selecting it using my arrow keys. And there it is. You can see that it actually removed the bullet points and really made everything much more compact. But notice that all of these elements are actually still stacked one on top of the other. So for each list item, what I need to do is I want to float them to the left. And when I float them to the left, they'll just stack right next to each other in a line. So that's what I want to do. For each one of these, it actually means creating a new class. Again, I don't want to do it for the list item because it'll change it for everything. So styles right in here, making a new one. And this time I will call it nav list item. Okay, there it is. A nav list item in styles, CSS. Right down here, I can get to sort of adding the properties that I want. And really all I need to do is have this float to the left. That's going to be the exciting part right down here. Float left, clicking right there. Of course, nothing happens just yet because I need to apply it right over here. So for the first list item, class, typing that in, selecting it. Oh, there it is. Nav list item. There it is. Floats those two. Done and done. Okay. I'm going to show you a really cool feature, by the way, and this is in, again, the latest version of Dreamweaver CC 2017 version, is your multi-cursor, right? So what I can do is if I just hold down the Shift and Alt key or Option key, so Shift, Alt, and with my cursor flashing, if I click and drag down, I just created 3 cursors. This is really cool. So hitting the space bar, class equals my quotes, right in here, same thing, nav, list, item. Make sure you spell things correctly, but I went ahead and added that to all of those, and you can see how it stacks them all. So super powerful, multi-cursor support. It's pretty awesome. So currently that's pretty set up. I have all my classes in place. You can see everything's stacked the way I want it. Really, the next step is just to start styling this. But before I do that, I'm just going to make sure I save all my files. But definitely the functionality is in place.